What is going on, guys? We are talking American Horror Story Season 6, Episode, or Chapter 6, spoiler review. And boy, was last night's episode really, really good. Now, in the beginning of this whole season, I was just wondering, okay, so this is a different structure. This is the playing the angle of people talking about their experience. I mean, we already know that they're going to survive at the end of the season, because they've been talking and they're here, they're talking, telling their story. You know, you have Lee, Matt, Shelby, and then you have the actors who portrayed them. This episode just made that whole concept. If you had mixed feelings about the whole structure and the concept and everything, it now defines what we're in for. And man, now listen, this episode wasn't perfect, but it was a damn good start to some crazy shit that's gonna happen. First of all, I'm assuming you guys saw the episode. I did a live reaction, so you can check out my live reaction of the episode. But what the hell? Why would Matt and Shelby go back to the house? I don't get that. I know because probably Shelby wants to reconnect with Matt, especially her sleeping with Dominic, who is played by Cuba Gooding Jr., of course, who played Matt in the reenactment and stuff. But why? For Matt's sake, why would he go back? Because his sister needs to clear her name, and we know Lee wants to go back to the house so she can clear her name. I mean, she's getting profits off the book, so I don't get why Shelby or Matt would go back to Roanoke. And even if Lee wants to clear her name, I still don't know why she would go back either. So I don't agree with their decisions. Now, the actors who portrayed them, that's a little interesting too, that they would agree to be with the people, especially with Lee. If Angela Bassett's character thinks that Lee is a murderer, why would you want to be in the same house as a murderer? So there's a lot of decision making and a lot of things that realistically I don't think people would do, even with all the money in the world, especially with the events that happened in Roanoke. But I gotta say, I absolutely love the fact that all of them are together. I love that the reenactment actors and the actual people are together. That's really cool. This Matt guy, the actor who's playing him, I really like his performance. Even though he was like, I feel so good. Like, he didn't kick Dominic's ass. I hope you know that. Evan Peters and Sarah Paulson, an item. Wow. But I did call last night's episode that Evan Peters was probably the first one to go, and I was exactly right. I mean, technically, the assistant was the first one to go. And this Sid guy is a real piece of shit. So you need a villain in this series, and there's your villain. And then you have all the things that bump in the night. Now, this makes me super interesting because you have the nurses who were just reenactment characters. So that means the actual nurses, the witch, the butcher, they're all going to be played by different people. It's not and you know how much Kathy Bates is such a phenomenal actress, because I absolutely forgot she was just playing a reenactment role and she's not really the butcher, you know what I mean? But who is really playing the butcher? Who is actually the butcher in this series? And the nurses, when we finally see the nurses and they're stabbing the shit at Evan Peters, man, those nurses look creepy. They look great. They look grimy. They reminded me of Silent Hill. I thought a lot of the scares, except the pig guy still looked the same. But overall, like the witch, I believe that was the witch that the assistant saw, and everybody else, like, they really look great. They really look creepy. They really look like a horror film kind of creature, or kind of bump in the night kind of a ghoul, or whatever you want to call them. It was great. It was great makeup work. It was great. It was just great effects. It was great, especially Evan Peters getting killed. I did like the effect on there. I didn't think it was too over the top with the blood and everything. It was a fast moment, but I thought that moment was very powerful. The acting in here was really, really good as well. Of course, all the acting is always going to be good. So I thought Kathy Bates, of course, steals the show. Kathy Bates is able to really play a deranged woman, a crazy woman, yet also play a sweetheart. So, I mean, she is a phenomenal actress. Angela Bassett, I loved the scene between Angela Bassett's character and Lee, and how they were in the room. You know, they were both, she played her, so she knew how Lee acted, and she knew how Lee was, especially with her daughter's, her husband, especially her husband. I think Lee did kill her husband, honestly. And then we did see the husband walking around, so his spirit is lingering on in the house. And I gotta say, man, that makeup and everything, the gore effects and stuff on that particular scene when Lee was walking and her husband was behind her, that was great as well. A lot of great effects, a lot of great pacing, a great, like, it's confusing in the beginning, not really actually confusing, but it's a great setup for what things to come. And I'm really, really excited for the next couple of episodes, because, man, was this episode just really, really good. Just putting all the chess pieces, all the checkers, whatever you want to fucking call them, together and making their moves. We already have Evan Peters, who bit the dust, so just wait till they find his body. And then just overall, I mean, I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a clash between him and his new bride to be Sarah Paulson, but man, it's gonna get good. A lot of great things. Dominic wasn't in this episode too much, which is fine. I do like the whole concept of she actually cheated on Matt with the person that played Matt. That was pretty funny. The marriage between Shelby and Matt has disintegrated. They're separated. I mean, that makes kind of sense. I mean, they've been through a lot, and even though they love each other, a lot of this kind of stuff could tear them apart. Especially a lot of the things that Matt did, banging Lady Gaga and stuff. So overall, I thought this episode still maintained the creepiness. It still maintained the Paranormal Activity type style of a lot of hidden cameras and stuff. But the good thing about this is that they don't go off track. They don't say, okay, it's just going to be like Paranormal Activity where just a lot of things here and there just like bumping in the night. No, it's an actual story. It's an actual story structure where there's a goal in mind, or not a goal necessarily, but there's a lot of rules that are still into play that you see in horror movies that you don't necessarily see in like Blair Witch or Paranormal Activity films, with just like the use of realism. There is still somewhat believability in this show, but then I don't feel like it's taken away from the actors and what they're accomplishing, or the overall story and overall the creepiness in it. And I do really think this reminds me a lot of The Conjuring, a lot of the Paranormal Activity, mixed kind of both together. And I think it's done really, really well. Honestly, Roanoke is actually starting to become one of my favorite seasons already. I mean, I was mixed on just the overall structure of the show, but this episode really brings me into the lights, opens my eyes and says, damn, Ryan Murphy, you know your shit, you know what you're doing. This season is actually, I feel like this season is definitely more cohesive than last season, and it's not a bloody mess like last. It's a bloody mess, but it's not a messy when it comes to story, and there's not a lot of things being shoved in there. We get it, we're going for it. It's good. So thank you guys for listening. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Would really appreciate it. Like the video if you like it, and comment below. Love to hear your guys' thoughts. If you loved that last night's episode, I fucking loved it, and I cannot wait for the upcoming episode. So I'm Dan Megan and Son. I'll see you guys later. Bye.